سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي الكريم وعلى آله وصحابته أجمعين والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, it is now time to start our next session. I'm sorry we didn't allow you enough time for conversation and discussion and so on. We have a loaded program, so please bear with us, and I'm sure that you would like to interact more with our guest speakers. This session, inshallah, will be moderated. Well, before saying that, I received a notice here from Brother Ali Bagani and Dr. Lee Khan about the housing cooperative project that Dr. Jamal Badawi talked about. It seems that they are willing to participate in a housing project in Houston if this would start. So it seems that they are really motivated by this idea. They would like to start it. So we are two names of people who are willing to do that. That's very good. I would like to introduce the moderator for this session, and he will introduce the speakers for you. Our moderator for this session is Sheikh Sayyid Jum'a, the president of the Islamic Society of Greater Houston. I would like to ask him to come to the podium and introduce our speakers. Please, Sheikh Sayyid. Another announcement, particularly for the sisters. There is an urgent request that the sisters who have babies with them is pleased to send them to the nursery. We appreciate the cooperation of the sisters for the sake of the other sisters who came, of course, to listen and to interact with the speakers. So thank you very much for your consideration to this request. Sheikh Sayyid Jum'a.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-mursalin Sayyidina Muhammad alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Of course, living Islam in America, one of the most important aspect of it is Dawa, or what's Dawa. And today we have, alhamdulillah, two distinguished speakers which have been very active in the field since long time, since I know them, I think more than 20 years, both of them. So inshallah we'll start with Brother Jamal Badawi from my right here. Dr. Jamal Badawi has been introduced before, but just in the briefing on him, you know, he's a member of the Islamic Society of North America since a long time, since the establishment. And he is also a member of the Shura Council of Islamic Society of North America. By profession, he is a professor of management at St. Mary's University, Halifax, Canada, and the founder, president of Islamic Information Foundation. And you know all his tapes and all his activity in that regard. To my left here, Brother Qasim Ahmed, Imam Qasim Ahmed. He's a Muslim, but he's proud to say that he's a Muslim since 21 years ago, and he has been very active in acquiring Islamic knowledge and Islamic information as much as he can. And his working career, it was all concentrated as Imam for the last 16 years. He was a director of propagation and a director and Imam of the Southwest Regional Imam on the Council of Imams of American Muslim Mission under the leadership of Imam Walid Muhammad. He served as a director of education also in Masjid Al-Ansar, Florida. And he performed also, completed his religion by performing Hajj in 1977 with an invitation from Rabita Alam Islami. And his education attended at Central College in Dallas and University of Chicago and Georgia State University. He was active also in the international way of Islamic activity, that was participating or one of the organizers and observers of the Quranic competition in Indonesia. And in addition to this, he is very active in Dawa activity, and he acquired his knowledge self-educated in the Quranic aspect, memorizing the Quran and working by himself. So Brother Qasim Ahmed has been very well active in that area. Without any further ado, I just don't want to take much of his time, because he's allowed only small number of time, which is about the short time, relatively about 25 minutes he will speak, but we need more interaction, inshallah, from the audience, because with the more we get interaction from the audience, the more benefit we get both the speaker and the audience themselves, and you can get a good understanding. So he will start, inshallah, and we'll let him talk about 25 minutes, inshallah, and then we'll go to Brother Jamal Badawi, inshallah. Brother Qasim Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, ayyuhal muslimun. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah alladhi khalaqa al-insana fi ahsani taqweem. Praise be to Allah who has created the human being in the most excellent mode, the most excellent symmetry. It is this human being that has been made for an excellent role and job, and one of those roles, as we see it in the Quran, is to call people to the path of Islam. We call them يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف. We call them to the most excellent way, khair, and we also call them and forbid them what is munkar, and invite them to what is good and excellent for the human being. I'm thankful to Allah to be present here, to serve in the cause of Islam with such distinguished people as Dr. Jamal Badawi and others that have been here. In fact, I find it an honor to be invited to address you and to share with you what we find in our experience in Dawa aspect, in the Dawa aspects, as the title has been given. Living, and I say al-Islam, living al-Islam in America means to me, as a Muslim, a great thing, because I am a product of America. That is, I was born here 41 years ago, but my history is one where I'm an American. I'm one of the only Americans, that is the ethnic group in America, that didn't come by invitation. we came by force. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to grow here in this country. And in growing in this country, we have come in contact with the most dynamic, the most exciting, the most profound, the most overwhelming way of life that a man or woman can have, and that is the religion of Al-Islam. And whenever I talk about this religion, the excitement in my blood is risen very high, because coming from a mindset of slavery, of persecution, and etc., when this religion, Al-Islam, comes, it liberates the total human being. And that's what I see in living the religion of Al-Islam in America. As Muslims, Allah Most High in the Quran says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who believe, reverence God, fear God as he should be feared, and do not die except as Muslim. When I think about living, I also have to think about death. And that commandment in the Quran that Allah invites us to is to live this religion as Muslim and refuse to die unless you die as Muslim. Now, in propagating the religion of Al-Islam, I have to first of all understand what does it mean to live this religion. The psychology of America has to be understood first. What is the psychology of America? What is the mindset of America? What can I do to invite people to a religion that I know is true, a religion that I know improves their life situation? What can I do? First of all, I have to be sensitive to the environment. The environment of America presents an ideal of materialism. It presents an ideal of anthropomorphic man as being God. It presents an ideal of racism, that man is judged by color identification, more so than by his work and his deeds. It presents an ideal of upper class, middle class, lower class, and no class. It presents an ideal of economic deprivation. It presents an ideal of power over the weak. But it also presents an ideal of freedom of religion, freedom of speech, a multiplicity of ethnic groups that gives me the opportunity, when I'm in my right mind and my right senses, to fastabiqu khayra, to compete with all that is excellent. So I look at the good in America. America has a moralistic problem. America is a technological giant, industrial giant, but it's pea-brain in its moral life. Now, so now I have to approach these minds. I have to not only approach the mind that's on the street, I have to approach the mind that's in government, the mind that's in education, the mind that's in the social sector, the mind of the family. I have to approach the mind of the racist, the mind of the materialist. So I now have a wonderful field to work out in. And I want to tell all the Muslims here that I think America is under divine destiny in as much it is grouped Muslims together from around the world and all other kind of people from around the world, Hindus, Jews, Christians, Indian, you name it, it is here in America. You have excellence here in America and you have poor situation here in America. Now, what better place for me as a Muslim to prove the worth of Al-Islam than in an environment that shows decomposition and decay, an environment that expresses death? What better place for me to express the life giving information of the Quran than in a land like this? So I look at America as competition for the Muslim. I look at America as a way for Muslims to lift up the Quran in a unified way. Now, I have listed a few things here that I feel that will help us better understand our role. In order to propagate the religion of Al-Islam as a Muslim, you must be free. You must be free from governmental ties. You must be free from cliques and clubs and undercurrents. You must be free from ancestral imposition in your thinking processes. You must be free to work for Allah. That's the number one thing. You have to be a worker for Allah. A da'i, one who calls. And we must understand that when we call the people to a religion, we call them to the way of Allah and not the way of our own personal invitation. We don't have personal saviors in Al-Islam, you know, and we don't go as Christians to win souls. These souls belong to Allah. You know, Christians, when they propagate, they call it soul winning. They want to win souls for the Lord. When Muslims go and propagate with Dawa, they go and to ignite in the individual an appetite to bring out their excellence. That every human being has been created fi ahsani taqweem, in the most excellent mode, the most excellent symmetry. But if that nature is lied to, like it has been, the nature of the human being in the West, and this is a mentality we must understand, in order to propagate the Quran in America, the ideal of what has been intrinsic in the nature of these people is that they think that they are born crippled, weak, diseased, and born in sin. To teach a man, and it's not just taught that, but the environment reinforces it, that you're born weak, that you're no good, and that your only hope is to be redeemed by a Savior who has been put in Caucasian flesh, blonde hair and blue eyes and thin lips, and was died for you. I'm not making mockery, believe me. But this is something that is overlooked. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he entered back into Mecca with his followers, after being persecuted and driven out, he gave instructions not to hurt anybody, not to burn a house, not to hurt a tree, do not hurt anybody. He went straight to the Kaaba. And he went to the Kaaba for what purpose? To clean the house of God out. And he went in there and he said, وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. And say, truth has arrived, and falsehood by its nature perishes, because falsehood is bound to perish. And his object was to clean the Kaaba out. So America is infested with idolatry. Same as then. But there's a big idol that's in America that holds sway and dominance over the minds of the people more so than any other time in the history of man. And for us to ignore addressing that problem, to establish God, first of all, to establish the ideal of God in the life of the people as a savior in a body of Caucasian flesh. It could have been in black flesh or yellow flesh, whatever. But you do not matterize or put God in matter and present him to the people. So, this is the dominant mentality in America. This is the dominant psychology in America. That I am superior because of my race, because of the color of my skin. And these divisions have hurt America so much so that it comes all the way from the infants. That to tell a person that they're superior because of the color of their skin, and then tell a person that they're inferior because of the color of their skin, has broadened the gap of hatred. And right now, that's why even among us as Muslims, and I have to always emphasize this, if I'm going to work with you doing Dawa, you have to first of all see me as Muslim. Don't be suspicious of me. I love you. I am thankful to Allah that I have been able to come to Al-Islam, and I am here to make a contribution because I'm only as good as my taqwa allows me to be. Isn't that right? Allah said the best of you is he who has taqwa. So I'm working to improve my taqwa, not the texture of my skin and my hair, or what kind of thobe I have on, or kufi, or whether I carry 5 pounds of mishwak or a sack of beads. That doesn't qualify me as Muslim. What qualifies me is my taqwa. So if I increase my taqwa, then I can love you better, and we can go to work collectively, whether you're from Pakistan, whether you're from India, whether you're from Egypt, whether you're from Saudi Arabia. We will have a taqwa, and we will embrace it, and we will go forward with Qul Huwallahu Ahad in America. Now, why do I bring this up? Because I've had people say, yeah, those are the black Muslims. I am not a black Muslim. I want to make that plain. I am Muslim. You are not white Muslims or brown Muslims or yellow Muslims. You are Muslim. And I want to make that plain to us because I want to be working with you on a whole lot of things, inshallah. Now, I feel strongly that Allah has blessed America in a way that Allah, and I said this last night, I want to repeat it. This is Allah's religion. This is what it tells me in the Quran. He created this religion for human beings to unite the hearts of the people. This is Allah's religion, and he chooses whom he wants to come into the religion. Think not that your coming into Islam is a favor to Allah, but thank Allah for inviting you to the faith. Because I don't have faith in you, I have faith in Allah. And if you have faith in Allah, then we are together. Now, since we established this idea, let's look at the position of a person raised here in America, up under the foot of America, and can't be exported out of America because I lived here and was born here. I know a Muslim who said, well, I can't do Dawa like you, brother, because they'll take my passport. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We have passports for everybody in time. Inshallah. The point that I'm making is this. Allah has blessed the immigrant Muslim to come to this country and acquire education and wealth. Some of you have much more wealth than African American here. However, Allah unites us. You see, Allah says in the Quran, وَأَعْتَسِمُوا بِحَبِّ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold fast to the rope of God that He extends down from you and be not divided among yourselves. وَأَعْتَسِمُوا, when I study this word in Arabic, in the 8th form of the Arabic verb, it also indicates internal holding, not an external rope. It's like the rope that the baby holds on called umbilical cord to his mother for its life substance. But the rope that is extended out for us is the Quran itself. And we hold to the Quran. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and be not divided among yourselves. Farraqa means to be separated by an outside force. Tafarraqa means to divide yourselves. Now, this is our problem as Muslims doing da'wah. We are divided in our objective and our aim. What is our objective for government? What is our objective for education? What is our objective for social life and recreational life? These are all forms of da'wah. Understand, living Islam in America does not mean reciting Islam in America. And we have a lot of good reciters of Islam. They have philosophies upon philosophy, and they can quote scholars upon scholars. In fact, look, I went to a meeting, and I stopped going to these meetings, but I've been to several of them where we were to cite the moon. Every time we go and cite the moon, I went to one masjid one time, it was about 12 of us, and all these brothers started bringing in books, stacks of books. And this Imam, and this said this, and this said this. You know, we got to look at, and pretty soon the moon done went by and Ramadan went by while we were going through all the books. My point is this, I'm not making mockery, believe me. My point is this, that we have to look to agree on the essentials of this religion, an aim, and a purpose, and a directive, and not be suspicious of one another. I am a student. And I have been a student of Imam Muhammad, who is one of the most effective leaders of promoting this religion in the world. Not that cancels out anybody else. I have great respect for living leaders, dead leaders, and leaders that will be born, our babies. You understand? We can rely on Ma'ududi, we can rely on Iqbal, we can rely on great Ibn Kathir, we can rely on great contributors to this religion. But we also have to look at who is making contribution now and who will be making contribution in the future. To live Islam in America, you have to be able to show وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, work righteous deeds. That's number one. Faith, pardon me, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Faith and work, right? Now, America is a people that have been preached to death. Here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow, turn on your TV set and your radio and watch all of the preachers. All morning long, preaching. They have had their Jimmy Swaggers, they have had all kinds of people. They have been preached to death. They have been doing all this preaching and no reaching. So what I am saying to you is that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he preached the religion, but he also was active in establishing a community. And he established a community, the movement of Islam, the acceptance of Islam became greater during the time of that 2-year period of peace of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah than all of the previous years. More people came to Islam during that time than all of the previous years. Why? Because there was an object of peace. It wasn't always war. You know, I've heard Muslims say, we need to just kill all the Christians and kill all the Jews. That's not the way to do it. I'm sorry. Your method won't work. It hasn't worked. It will not work. In fact, right now, they have more weapons to take us out if Allah would allow it. I've met Muslims. Every time they talk around, the kafir is, the kafir is, the kafir, brother, the kafir, the kafir, the kafir, the kafir is this, the kafir is. I said, wait a minute, brother. Wait, just before you continue with your kafir terminology, You're at the Kaffir school. You drive the Kaffir's car. You bought the Kaffir's clothes. You're eating the Kaffir's food. Your children are being educated by the Kaffir. You know, and I just went on down the list. I said, you got a problem. You have a serious problem because you are Kaffirizing everything, but yet using all of the Kaffir's material. Let's come to this religion with a sober mind. So, what am I pointing out is this. We need, as Dawa, of living the religion, we need to implement the recitation of the Quran through its application of the Quran. I believe strongly, Allah has shown me this in my work in this religion. I don't have to go to a university of here or there. Allah has shown me himself in this Quran, as he showed Adam and as he showed others. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ, and he taught Adam. Adam ain't gone. Adam is still in the nature of the people. Allah has shown us that this religion requires of us to be عَمِلُ الصَّالِحَاتِ and work. We need halal food. We need education. We need masjids decorating this country across. We can change the face of America with masjids. We need our own housing complexes. We need to come together collectively. You know, it only takes about 60,000 Muslims to put together a nice presidential candidate. Even if it don't win, just the name being up there. Muhammad Abdul Suleiman Omar bin Sharif running for president. Well, who is Muhammad Abdul Omar bin Sharif? He's one of the Muslims. Is it a black Muslim? No, ain't no such thing as black Muslim. He's a Muslim. What is his platform? His platform is the Quran. Well, let's look at it. So we might not win that year, but we'll do it the next year or the next year. We can do that in city government, local government, state government. We have to visit the government. We have to visit the educational system. We have to go and say, look, I don't like the way the book that you're using here in the school is slighting the ideal of Islam. You know? Then that means that we have to have our own Islamic textbook company and provide it. I talk with a lot of Muslims who are doctors and etc. We can put together seminars around this country, in the Hispanic community, in the African American community, in the Appalachian Mountains. What is stopping us from doing Dawa? If I can get Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Suleiman and Dr. Omar and Dr. so-and-so, and we go in there with a dentist. We go in there with a MD. We go in there with a chiropractor, etc. And then set up a missionary station right in the heart of the ghetto and say, free exams this weekend. Honey, did you hear that? Yeah. Go down there. They down there. The Muslims are giving free exams this weekend. Praise the Lord. I'm telling you, I know how it goes. You know, Imam Wadawadi Muhammad, he told us in 1975, we was all enthusiastic, 1975, 76, we were all enthusiastic about going out into the ghetto with this new ideal of the religion. The bringing the Quran and the Sunnah Prophet Muhammad. He said, just hold it. He said, you can't go into those ghettos talking about Quran and Hadith, and those people are hungry, no medicine, sick, on drugs, and out of it. You have to learn how to speak to the ear that's alive in the people. Very essential. Look for the ear that's alive. Then once you find the ear that's alive and you begin to deal with some of the basic essential, then you can feed them Quran, you can feed them Hadith, you can feed them Seerah, and you can bring them to a better way of life. But to go in and condemn a people and say, look, you all are wrong, you're sinners, you're wrong, if you don't accept Islam, your head will be cut off, you'll go straight to hell. Them people will chase you out of the ghetto with tar and feather on you if you get out with your life. You can't approach a person like that. You have to approach a person as Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even some of the Muslims, they were drinking, still propagating the religion, drinking wine. You know, until the command came down that you cannot come to prayer with a mind before. And the sincere Muslim, because he didn't want to go to Allah with a mind before, stop drinking. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he has set the best example of how to deal with a decayed, decomposed, unraveled environment in propagation. And you know, I'm rushing with it because we won't have, how many minutes I got left? Oh, good. I'm going to run this down in 5 minutes. Huh? Oh, okay. You are very generous. SubhanAllah. You know, I was very excited when I was invited to this, and I said, "Boy, I'm gonna be on the platform with Dr. Jamal Badawi. I'm an admirer of yours." Yes, SubhanAllah. There's a need to develop a more cooperative working spirit among Muslims for the propagation of Al-Islam by Quranic life and example. By Quranic life and example. Because I'm a Muslim. I'm gonna give you an experience real quick. I'm a Muslim who meet a lot of people who want to teach me. Because I'm new and, you know, I want to learn. I'm like a sponge. But some people I've met, they want to right away bring you under a certain restricted philosophy. I want to be a free Muslim. I want to be a Muslim of the Quran. Don't tell me all of the steps and rituals and things I have to go through just to serve you. I don't want to belong to a sect. I don't want to belong to a club. I want to belong to the Muslim Brotherhood. I want to embrace my Muslim from India, my Muslim from Pakistan, my Muslim from Egypt, my Muslim from Saudi Arabia, and from Africa, and from Palestine, and from Afghanistan, and from Indonesia. I want to embrace them with the embracement of the Quran and not with tribal habits that you have brought to me. That's what I do. I don't want that. So Allah is giving us an ideal here in America that He is raising up a brand new, fresh people with a spirit that is enthusiastic to go with the Quran. I don't want to come with a so-called black Muslim spirit. And we have to be careful because they're trying to do this now. The religion is rising so fast among African Americans, they say, okay, let's promote this man. Let's promote this man. Let's put him on Donahue. Let's put him on this. So the people will be attracted to him. So they won't be attracted to that message that W.D. Muhammad is speaking because he is giving out that clear Quran, and if that happens, we're going to lose. Islam is going to win whether we accept it or not. Allah is Akbar, always has been, always will be. And it is Allah who says in the Quran, وَلَا ذِكْرَ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ, that the thinking on God is bigger than any fault out here. And I say this often, I say it many times. There's not a mind living that can defeat the mind of the Quran. Not in the past, not in the present, it will be never one born. Allah issued a challenge 1400 years ago. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَلْنَا عَبْدِنَا فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. Isn't that right? And if you are in doubt to what we have revealed, then you produce a surah. Even a short one, just produce three ayats like Surah Al-Asr. They haven't done it yet, 1400 years. That establishes in my heart that this is a superior book with a superior message. So I'm inviting you as Muslims to let us develop a cooperative working spirit among Muslims for the propagation of Al-Islam by Quranic life and example. Well, what is the Quranic example? It's there throughout the book. Let's get back to studying it in the proper way. This approach by each of us to promote this is to build a strong appetite for the religion. We have to have the appetite. Brother Ibrahim, we were talking earlier, and he wanted to know, he said, how can we deal with our youth and etc. If the parents are not excited about this religion, if they're not enthusiastic about this religion, the children are not going to be enthusiastic. You have all kind of things being promoted to grab our youth. That's our future. And for us not to have schools for them, for us not to have recreation for them, and etc., it's a shame on us. So, if we're not enthusiastic, and don't get me wrong, we don't have to be emotional, but we have to be enthusiastic. I've met people who present the religion, some of them I respect very highly, they present the religion, and they appeal to intellectual form, which is excellent. But everybody in America ain't intellectual. Yeah. If I would come to a group of people who are in the ghettos of America, on the streets of Mecca or whatever, and say to you, good afternoon, I'm Qasim Ahmed, and I want to talk to you on an arcane manifestation of extrasensatory perception. And who is this dude here? You understand what I'm saying? So I have to learn what ears alive in them. Oh, they hang on the corner. And what's happening, man? How you doing? Yeah, my name is Qasim. Jack, what's happening? Man, why y'all up here drinking this wine like that? Don't you know this killing you? Yeah, Jack, we know it. Then, I'm telling you from actual experience. I have propagated on street corners, in prisons. Allah has blessed us to speak in over 500 churches just here in this area alone. I've spoken in church. I got tape to prove. You don't believe it? I got tape to prove it. What a preacher have got up and said, anytime this man comes into this church, everybody sit down. What he is saying is the truth from God. And you know what I open up with? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. That's how I open up. And I explain it to him. And one time we were talking, I said, and the Bible says to Daniel, say, seal up the book. I said, now the book is closed. It said, but now it's going to be open. I said, you know what opened up the book that was sealed? In the church we were looking. And I said, it was Al-Fatiha. Because in Revelation it said the 7 seals. I said, well, we have 7 verses right here in Al-Fatiha. I said, so let me show you, when the book was closed, what opened it up. And boy, you know, their attention was there. And we explained Al-Fatiha. You see, just introducing the religion. But I was their friend then. I was their friend because I shared with them. I could respect what they had, and they began to respect what I had. You see, that was in the church. But we also have done this with the politicians. We have done this in the I have teachers in education schools, some of the worst schools that were in Chicago. They wanted to know, how are we able to reach the students? I said, we are speaking to their life form. As Brother Ibrahim was saying, how can we motivate the children? I say, life is motivation. You are born with motivation. If you got to be motivated, that means you dead. Life moves itself because Allah created life and it has an objective, and if you get in the way of it, it is still going because it is obedient and it is not like us. So dear beloved Muslims, understand that the promulgation of Islam in America requires for us to study the psychological processes that have enslaved America, because our object is to liberate America with the Quran and the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Isn't that what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said? "Taraktum fikum ma in tamassaktum bihi ma lan tadillu abada, kitabullahi wa sunnati." That I leave with you 2 things. That if you never stray, tamassaktum means to cling, to hold fast, masakat. But also in this word, if you examine it, the word musk comes out of it. Musk is like the perfume you put on, and it clings to your body, and it takes on a certain chemistry of that body. This lets me know, even in this example, that every one of us, we have a different chemistry, but we are like what they say in chemistry. They have ionic bonding and covalent bonding. And the covalent bonding is when something is lacking something, the other one shares the atom with it so it can do its job. That's the way we are. And each one of us have a chemistry. Now, when these atoms can't come together, the chemistry can't come together, there's still another thing that helps them to come together, and they call them enzymes. And the enzyme will go in the middle and let both of the atoms work together. Our enzyme is the Quran. Our enzyme is that when we can't agree on a certain thing, let us come to the Quran. And let us unite our chemistry together so we can win the championship, the NBA. You know, the NBA championship game. You know, if the players ain't playing with the right chemistry, they don't hit enough points. So praise be to Allah. Now, dear beloved Muslims, I propose that we begin to invite people to the Quran. I'm planning, this has been a dream of mine. I would like to get a truckload, a tractor trailer load of Qur'ans, 2 Winnebagos, and carry a team of educators or a team of imams and go throughout the Bible Belt of the South. It's ripe. They're waiting for Muslims. They love Islam. They love what is right. They haven't been dope infested and crime infested. And go and put up big tents and give Muslim revival, Muslim teaching. And pass the Quran, teach the Quran, etc. Feed them some food, etc. And invite people to the religion. Let people see Muslims working. It can be done. It can be done. We have areas of propagation from the individual level, community neighborhoods and concerns, even door-to-door Quran selling, just like they do door-to-door Bible. That would even help the Muslim know how to explain his book better. Good afternoon. My name is Mr. Ahmed, and I'm one of the Muslims in the local area here, and I would like to share with you a wonderful book that will change your life. I got a book. I know you do. But this book here will even enhance your understanding of that book. I mean, I'm just giving a quick sales pitch. You know, the door might get slammed in your face. But the true salesman, how many has been salesmen before? Very few, huh? Well, look, not only do I have I sold door to door, but I sell this religion. I am a salesman for the religion. And I love for you to challenge me. You know, I don't even get going until you tell me I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Excuse my expression. But what I'm telling you is that we can go door to door, and even if you can't do it like that, we can put out handbills. You know your bills, your phone bill, your light bill, your gas bill, and thing that you get? When you mail it in, put a handbill in it that says, read the Quran, the final revelation, and just send it out. Somebody's going to open that up and say, what they put in here? Read the Quran, the final revelation, and throw it in the garbage. But it's on their mind. There's no law against that. I'm talking about if thousands of Muslims are doing this. Do you know what affected this country in 1975 more than anything else? When thousands of African American Muslims were going to the court having their names changed. Some of the judges refused. You know, if you change your name, you may not be able to. I don't care. Give me my name. How much you say it cost? $400? Give it to me. And they walk out of there from being Robert Johnston to Omar Khalid Salim. Happy. That changed them. It changed them. Oh, buddy, you don't know how to impact. How we going to stop all of these blacks? We're losing our blacks to Islam. And we ain't yours. We belong to Allah. We're the same as Bilal, who stones was put on his chest and they beat him. And the only thing you can say in his word, Ahad. Ahad. And I'll tell you, this is what we have to say. This is how I feel. Schools, churches. Oh, churches and synagogues. We talked about churches. Allah blessed me just recently to speak at Christian, Jewish, Muslim gathering in Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, and also at a synagogue that night. And I will share something with you. Many of the Jews that came up first, I didn't know if I was reaching anything. They were just sitting there solemn, you know, and I'm just trying to explain the unity of the human being. You know what? The Jew came up to me, several. One came up to me, he said, I know you said this is your first time ever speaking in a synagogue. He said, but I want to make a prediction. He said, I believe that you're going to be speaking in synagogues across this country because what you're saying is what we need to hear. I'm talking about the Yahudi. Because all of them are not Zionists. You have decent Jews just like you have decent Christians. And I know I might get a big argument later on, but save that for the 7th floor or the 8th floor. Because we're going to stay on the ground floor and make this work. Schools, political organizations, social organizations, business groups, media. I had all these things listed. But schools, we meet with the principals, the college president, department head, see if Muslim literature can be included in the library. Distribute handbills where permitted. Distribution of placards where permitted. T-shirts with positive images for sale. College newspapers. We can write in them. You got local community newspapers that are looking for copy. Begging for it. Blank page. They throw anything in there. Let's put an article in the local newspaper that's free and distributed and say, meet your Muslim neighbor. Many of you are writers. You may not can't go to the door, but you can sit at home and write a beautiful article on the principle of Islam. You see, social organizations, business groups. We need to meet with the business people and talk with them. And media, radio, TV, newspaper, magazine, especially radio and TV, we need to get on that. Some of us have enough money to buy a whole radio station. And let's have decent programming on it, etc. I believe we have that in a lot of places, but we need to increase that. Make ourselves visible and present ourselves as an intelligent religion and not as one as the media tried to present us, in some cases, as terrorists, You know, that's one of the recent things. But when I used to see Islam as a community, a little baby, you know what they used to show me? Is when I was young, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. I don't know if you ever know about them. They presented Muslims as nincompoops, as thieves. You see, the Arabian Nights, you know, and they be making mockery. I didn't know it then, but now as I seen over there, they be Allah, 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 let me with you. They be making mockery of the religion and etc. Everything about Islam was presented as detrimental. That Muslims have harams, 50 women, you know. So what I am saying is that this discrediting of Islam. Then they came next with promoting, we never called ourselves. I came into this religion under Elijah Muhammad in 1969. And we never called ourselves black Muslims. It was the media that called us black Muslims to separate you from us and us from you. Yeah, no, these are black Muslims. You don't want to be with them. They're black niggas. They're savages. They're wild. I thank Allah for this religion. I love this Quran. And I love all good Muslims wherever they fight around the world. The Mujahideen that's in Afghanistan, the Palestinian fight, those that are fighting in South Africa, every place Muslims are striving for growth. I love them. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Qasim, on this beautiful presentation of all your practical experience on this. And actually there are quite many important points here he mentioned. And Brother Jamal Badawi was going to comment just 5 minutes and make the question.
Actually, after this excellent presentation, I have nothing really to comment on except to underline the fact that Brother Shakur has already mentioned, that when we start thinking of ourselves as Muslims, regardless of whether we are Muhajirin or Ansar, immigrants or resident, and we take it in that broader framework, then it will be quite beneficial, because for various segments of Muslims, they have different backgrounds. That's enriching. There is unity in diversity, and when Muslims try to benefit from each other's background, I think it would be quite beneficial, and we see that already in this very interesting and dynamic presentation by Imam Shakur. When you really take this practical experience of someone who has more knowledge than many immigrants, for example, Muslims, about what ticks in this society, what angles can be useful in the presentation of Dawah. For that reason, I think I would rather move to the questions. In fact, there are already some questions that has been prepared through the very hard work by Brother Ahmed Ghazali, the chairman of the program, and I'd rather take time in answering some of them. Maybe you can ask some of them to Brother Shakur, some to myself, or both of us. I leave it to you, but Brother Qasim.
Yes, Brother mentioning, when he mentioned Brother Shakur, he means Brother Qasim.
I'm sorry, I mixed it.
So that's the correction to the... brothers here, we'd like to hear if any of the questions, or before reading all these questions here, we need to get from the floor here actually. There are comments here. Come to the mic, please, brother.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My main question is, what do you think, as an American person born here, and for me, for example, expecting my kid to live here in the United States, what is the best way of doing da'wah here? Can we invite people before we clean our house? Or is it better to clean our house first before we invite people to Islam? And please understand my point of cleaning our house. This could be interpreted at different level in terms of how can we make our da'wah, how can we organize ourselves, how can we present ourselves. Cleaning our house here is a very important issue. Do we have to clean our house before we invite people to Islam to see us? Or we invite them knowing that our situation, our fragmentation, our problem, inside problem, might result in rejecting, in some people, lots of them will reject us. There are two approaches. Which one do you prefer? Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. First of all, I believe that inviting people to our religion does not necessitate us cleaning of our house. Why do I say that? Because I see the house of the Muslims as the house of the Quran. And there's no way that you have to clean the Quran because it has remained pure. What I mean by that is that if we have problems in the masjid, in our own community, we're going to be faced with those problems like other people. And we're going to continue to have those problems. But if I invite a person to the Quran, first, invite them to Allah, invite them to the Quran, for them to read the religion for themselves. I'm not inviting them to a sheikh or to an imam or to a group. I'm inviting them to the Quran. Now, when a person begins to read that Quran and study that Quran, Allah will touch them. In doing Dawa like that, it gives us a better foundation to work from. Now, at the same time, the problems that we have in our extended house, should I say, from misunderstanding, etc., we can be working on that process of cleaning up. I say this because as one who was converted to Al-Islam, if I have been waiting right now, I'm 41 now, if I've been waiting for the Muslims of the Muslim world to clean their house up, I'll still be out there in the street drinking wine, waiting, because Muslims still have problems right now, numerous of them, all around the world. But it does not prevent people from coming to religion of Al-Islam. Also, by being extended an invitation to Islam, I've come in loving Allah, and Allah protected my heart. So now I am now working in the same house that is still dirty, trying to clean it up. The extended house, not the Quran, trying to clean it up. So you have a lot of Muslims. If we don't invite these people that are out there in business, in medicine, and etc., they're going to come in and they're going to be a great contribution. And one thing is, we cannot be like Iblis and be jealous and get envy, because Allah brings them. Remember that. Iblis had a problem. He had an attitude. He had a real bad attitude because he was losing his position. And he said, "Ana khayrun minhu," I'm better than him. And this is the problem that we have in the Muslims. I met this among Muslims. Immigrant Muslims who've come here, some feel, "Oh, I'm better than you. You don't know enough Arabic, you don't know enough this, you don't know enough that." That's not it, brothers. What is that I'm here as a Muslim trying to be sincere, and I want to learn the religion. I want to learn the religion the best way that I can from the Quran, and I want you to share with me your experience, like Dr. Badawi was just saying. He said that everyone has something from their own cultural life and etc. to contribute. I would like to see us put on a nice workshop like this, conference, seminar, where every community can share information about their historical growth and etc. I'll tell you why. I visited Indonesia in 1981, and when I talked with them, they were telling me how they worship in Hinduism and certain idols and etc. like that. And I saw the similarity of their idolatry is that with in Arabia before Muhammad came with the Quran, and I saw the same idolatry in our life, you see. So we are similar in that manner, that we've come from misbelief into belief. So I would suggest strongly, invite people to the Quran, invite people to the religion by way of the Quran. At the house, the Quran remains clean, where it says, وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْهُ إِلَّا مُطَّهِّرُونَ, that none can touch it except for the purified one. I hope that answers your question.
We'll take a question from the paper here, and we'll get the question from the floor then. Just hold a minute. The second question here, I will pass to Brother Jamal Badawi here. What is our role in solving the problems the American society face? Examples like drugs, alcohol, divorce, teenager. Oh, let me repeat the question again. Yeah. What is our role in solving the problems the American society face? Examples like drugs, alcohol, divorce, teenager, pregnancy, and others, etc. Brother Jamal Badawi.
Three basic points briefly. First of all of these problems are essentially behavioral problems. And those behavioral problems come in essence from the understanding and value system of people. And Brother Qasim Ahmed has already explained to us in some detail some of those values that influence the minds of people. The biggest problem in the way the West try to deal with this problem is not to get at the roots of the problem, but just deal with the symptoms of the problem. If the problem is moral decay, they tell you safe sex, smart sex, but they don't tell you about chastity. So this is the basic issue that we have to realize. As a result of this, and maybe I should add one more thing, they may be also part of those values, some aspect that pertain to religious understanding. I'm not sure of that, but possibly the notion of easy salvation, the notion of somebody taking away your sins and all of that may not have as much control on one's appetites and behavior as the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of pleasing Him that is very prominent in the Islamic teaching. As a result of this problem, my second point is that any solution then would have to start from the roots. The belief in Allah, submission to Him, expression of love to Him, so that whenever people are asked to give up all these bad habits, they become actually self-motivated to do that rather than being preached to death, like Brother Qasim has indicated. Preaching wouldn't do it, really. My third point is that if we do that, of course, and we succeed to bring some of those people to understand the depth of change that is needed to change the society and solve these problems, then we have to provide for social cohesiveness and unity that help reinforce the new direction, to help them have other alternatives, to be busy with other productive pursuits, especially the spirit of Dawah, which can engulf the entire life of the individual.
Thank you, brother. Yes, brother.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My question for Brother Qasim Ahmed. I have two questions. One of them questions, the other one maybe not a question, but clarification. When I came to this country in 1955 and read in history, American history, going back to 13 colonies, there was good people, decent people. They wore long dresses. They wear hats when they go to a restaurant. They, have a very, very much respect to the food, whatever they had. And I was invited to their church many times while I was a student going to college. And the change, I see it so great now. For me, being all those years, and I've been watching all these changes. Who's behind all these changes in America? For Brother Ahmed Qasim to answer that, please. It's another question, but there is a TV program which Brother Qasim remind me to it that Jimmy Swagger is going to make the talk and preach himself to death. But please remember, there's a good program about Islam in Channel 67 at 8:30 Sunday. And kind enough, each one of you, to follow and watch that program tomorrow if you can. And Brother Nisar Ahmed, I don't know if he's here, he could, give you some few words about that program. It's a beautiful program. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Quickly, the history of America, as you've seen it moving to establish a good government, as you spoke of earlier, that people wore long dresses. They were very moralistic. They spoke to the freedom of the inherent nature in the human being. If you study the Constitution of America, that every person is born with this inherent nature to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is embedded in the Constitution of America. Another thing about the Constitution of America, why it was necessary for them to separate what is called church and state, is that in the Constitution, it says that man is innocent until proven guilty. Whereas in the church philosophy, man is guilty until redeemed into innocent by accepting Christ. So those two philosophies didn't go together because sin means to be guilty. This is an interesting point we have to study. But the design of the conspiracy to unravel America, as Imam Wardi Muhammad pointed out one time, he said that America was an experiment with the extremes of human nature, to give human nature freedom, total freedom on one hand, to let it go to the extreme, let them do anything, and then contain them on the other hand. So this is what this has been done. And now that they're through with it, they're throwing America to immorality. They're destroying it. Now who is this they? These are the designers who rule the world. I can't name them, but you can see their tracks. They're like rats. You can tell when you get rats. They leave little droppings. You study the history of the enslavement of human nature, human beings, you will find that when they enslave that nature, they are trying to prevent the freedom movement that's in everybody. And when that freedom movement begins to explode, they begin to direct it in different places. So they're finished with this experiment in America. This is why I said earlier that we have the best chance now with the Quran to save this country. This country right now is waiting on al-Islam. They want it. Every day I meet people. A lot of my witnesses, I sit right here. Every day I meet people that want to learn about this religion. They want it. And it's not because of what the media is doing, it's because the nature of the people is moving in them to Allah. Remember, Allah calls people to the religion. And He's moving them toward it, and He's preparing us to come together to help give them the direction that they will need. So America is going to be safe. It's going to be safe, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. There is a question with Brother Jamal. With request to read it. Yes, sir.
To summarize the question, basically it's to the effect that the Prophet ﷺ taught that we should distinguish ourselves from Jews and Christians, and he gave examples of the call for prayer, fasting, and other things. And it seemed that the brother or sister who asking the question have some reservation about what Brother Qasim said about talking to people door to door or having revival meeting. I think what the Prophet ﷺ was teaching us in that in the matter of ibadah and other aspects of life, yes, we should distinguish ourselves from Jews and Christians. There's no question about that. And the examples are worth taking: azan, prayers, fasting, and so on. On the other hand, the Prophet ﷺ himself also said that al-hikmatu dallat al-mu'min, wisdom is the lost property of the believer, and whenever he or she finds it, he is the most worthy and deserving of using it. So things that does not infringe on or contradict our thinking and our ideology as Muslims, which others might have preceded us, and you want to adopt it, actually the hadith gives a blank invitation to make use of it. The second observation I'd like to make is that some Muslims get a bit oversensitive about using some of those techniques, thinking that we are imitating missionaries or evangelists, even though in many cases the evangelists themselves are following the path of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that we forgot. An example of this, I remember one person one time having a very severe reservation on for example, inviting people to his house for a cup of coffee and nice dessert or dinner, and then presenting Islam. Said, "Oh, this is what missionaries say. I've seen that in the missionary publication, how to convert a Muslim." I said, those missionaries are following the Sunnah, but we are not, because the first time when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was asked to promulgate the message to his people and declare it, what he did is exactly this. He invited his people for a meal, and then he started to talk to them about Islam. So if you make this idea that implement the idea that Brother Qasim is suggesting, going to some place, having food, because the Prophet invited people for food, having whatever, call it revival meeting or whatever, to gather people together, present the message of Islam to them, if it works, by all means. So actually we're going back to Sunnah in some of those techniques.
Yeah, we'll go to one from the floor, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. To Brother Qasim, first of all, I just want to say that your commentary on using the Quran to bring people to Islam at least worked in my case. I've been a Muslim now, alhamdulillah, since 1982. I started just on reading the Quran alone. I had met no Muslims. I started reading the Quran in about 1980, late 1980, and made the intention to become Muslim in 1982. So this was on the Quran alone. So I think the testimony of the Quran will make it. My question to you is this. I have already been frequently asked to speak at churches, Christian churches, about Islam, and you said that you had spoken to 500. I find myself wondering just how I should address Christians or Jews about Islam. Should I, there seems to be a certain amount of diplomacy or tact that is needed. You can't come right out and say your religion is all wrong. You must take our religion. So I would like your advice on this topic, please.
First of all, because the time is running, I'm going to make it real short. There's much can be said. Maybe we can talk afterwards. But if we go with the attitude to make friends, this is what I found out. I went first with an attitude to prove that what I had was better than what you got, and I made enemies. I made a lot of them. But Allah blessed me to go back and apologize to them, and then they became friends. You find, what I found the best way for me was to go in and work with them on common ground. It's not going to take anything away from your religion. As Dr. Badawi was just saying, some Muslims will criticize certain things that we do. But I would go to a church and we would talk about fellowshipping together. Fellowship. I would invite them to the message and vice versa. And we would, they call fellowshipping. And they would give us, they first began to give me about 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to speak, and then later on in that 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, Allah would bless us to really give nice comment in showing the commonality of one God, you see, for all of us. Here's an example. We illustrate that there's one air. This is not a Christian air and a Muslim air. One sun, not a Christian sun and a Muslim sun. One water on the earth, made by one God. And I would illustrate, I said, now if this was all Christian air, it would be a lot of Muslims in here dead. And if it was all Muslim air, it would be a lot of Christians that wouldn't breathe. Right away they see these illustrations. I'm saying, instead of going to books and argue, let us go first to the creation and show the commonality that we have in the creation. We ride on the bus together, we shop in the malls together, we ride on the same highways together, and now here I come to your religious house, you come to mine, and we can't talk together, and we both intelligent. In fact, we just sat in the same college together to graduate from. So all these commonalities that we have in education, in government, in social life, and recreational life, you might go to a park, and there's Christians walking in the park, Jews walking in the park, and Jahils too. So let's show the commonality that we have in religion, and we will see our religion's efforts grow better, because Islam has the best way to answer all of those situations.
Thank you, brother. We have plenty of questions here, and all of them are very important to know and to listen to it. So trying to, inshallah, request the speaker to be also shortened, and also the questions when it comes to be as precise as possible, that we can make benefit of the time, because we have only limited time here. We have a question here, I'll address it to both Brother Jamal Badawi and Brother Qasim Ahmed, because of his experience here. Is Dawa in jails useless? Brother Jamal Badawi from my right.
I don't think it's useless. Number one, Islam is mercy to all mankind, and mankind include those in prison as well. Number two, while there may be some negative aspects involved in incarceration, there may be some hidden blessing that people have more time to reflect on what they did and plenty of time to think, and they are really sometimes bored, they have something to do. Thirdly, that practical experience in North America seemed to indicate that by the grace of Allah, thousands and thousands of people embraced Islam inside the prison. Once I attended the Jum'ah prayer in masjid, in a prison facility near Philadelphia. There were nearly 500 to 550 brothers with us in the prayer, and I was told there is a total of 800 Muslims in that facility alone. The reports of people who are in charge of prisons seem to indicate that there is a great deal of change in behavior and personality of those who embrace Islam. So that's like Dr. Qadi mentioned this morning, it would be paying back to America again by showing the right way in a practical manner. Finally, I believe it is very important for Muslim communities throughout this country to organize through Islamic centers or MSA chapters or whatever organizations regular visits to the prisons that are nearby them to establish relationship with their brethren there, and I'm sure inshallah there will be a very good harvest.
Allahu Akbar. For your information about the jails here, we have almost more than 1,500 Muslim inmates inside the jail.
Yeah, I want to answer this real quick, and I'm going to let you judge for yourself. When I was 17 years old, I went to prison, and I was introduced to Islam in prison when I was 18 years old. And only time I've been back to prison since accepting Al-Islam has been to teach. So you can tell me whether it's useless or not.
Allahu Akbar. I think that's a good answer. Thank you, brother. Okay, we'll go from the floor here.
Assalamu alaikum. Recently in our community, a Chinese teenager about 17 years old, he was invited to our local mosque, and he was interested in Islam. MashaAllah, he converted to Islam. But now he's having some personal problems. I think it was the people at our mosque, including myself and other youths, who scared him with many details and rules of Islam. He was stunned. He was having second thoughts. We at the mosque are not experienced enough to handle a new convert correctly. This is something very new to us. What is the best way to comfort him and to show him Islam without making our religion seem so complicated?
To reduce the number of muftis. A person becomes a Muslim and surrounded by 25 muftis, everybody's telling him what to do. And unfortunately many of those muftis do not realize the wisdom that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used himself in bringing people to Islam. Nor have they studied even the way Islam itself came in stages, with emphasis on Aqidah. Many of the rules and regulation came much later in Medina. All the 13 years in Mecca was drilling on the matter of Aqidah and essential ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to keep that in mind. And if we study the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we know that we make these mistakes because we don't follow Islam. That when the Prophet ﷺ said that this religion is mateen, this deen is very strong and very profound, so enter into it gently. And then he gave a similitude. A traveler who wants to cut the distance, long distance, in a very short time, he says he will kill his horse and he will not reach his destination. Don't kill the horse. Don't kill the horse. Go gently and begin with important priorities and go gradually.
Allahu Akbar. Wow. Brother Qasim Ahmed, short comment.
I'll make a short comment on that because I've experienced that same situation. That when coming into Islam right away, you get, as Dr. Badawi said, many muftis that want to tell you how many sunnahs and how many this, and you need a set of beads. You're not right. You don't have this. Blah 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 blah. You have to treat that new convert as a brand new baby in the house. And when that brand new baby comes home from the hospital, you do not give it steak. You do not give it a mop and tell it to start sweeping the floor and cleaning out the toilet. What you do, you treat it gently. You feed it the proper food gently. And you do not try and make it do the things that grown-ups in the house are doing. And especially when a lot of the grown-ups are not doing it right anyway.
I have been ignoring that side here. I didn't see hands. Just yes, your sister here. What? Do you want to come to the mic? There is a mic here, I think. It doesn't work? Come to this mic. Just can come over here. No, it's not working either here. Yes, it's working.
It's working? Can you hear? No. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. In Chicago, we started something. It's an experiment right now, but in our masjid, we have many new Muslims. And what we have done was we started what we call an Islamic support group. And what we do is when a person says Shahada, we take them like an Ansar, you know, like the Prophet used to appoint an Ansar for every new Muslim so that that one person could guide that one person. And that eliminates 20 muftis, really, you know, surrounding them. So what we do is we take them and we take them weekly and we sit them down for 2 hours and we give them classes on the basics of Islam, what are the beliefs of the Muslim, how to make salat, how to, what the proper fasting in Ramadan is, and all those things he needs to know. And then, of course, we encourage him to read on his own and study on his own the hadith and the sunnah. And then it kind of, you know, puts them on the straight path in a very slow way. And I think it would eliminate all of these personal problems that new Muslims encounter when they're just, you know, thrown into a group, cold turkey. They don't know what's happening. They said shahada and they don't know what it means. So I think if you want to get this started here in this community, I have all the information on how to start it. I have a newsletter that you can read on the activities that we provide for the new Muslims. And anybody who would like to know about this, just come to me and I'll give you the information from my pamphlets. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. It's you want to comment?
Yeah, just a 30 seconds comment. Just like my sister said, I noted the same idea also was implemented in Singapore. It's being implemented in Singapore by the Muslim Convert Association. And the function of the body, you know, brother or sister, depending on the sex of the person embracing Islam, is not only just to teach, but also to make to follow the progress of the person, to integrate him socially, introduce him to others, because a person becoming Muslim really would lose lots of his previous social relationship. And it would be a good idea for a program like my sister mentioned, also to have some training programs for those bodies themselves, so that they know how to wisely also break people into Islam.
Okay, brother, the question to Qasim Ahmed. This will come next to him, inshallah.
This says, do you talk, Brother Qasim, assalamu alaikum, reason unity of Muslims, do you talk to other African American Muslims and encourage them to participate in mosque activities with Arabic Muslims, etc.? I ask this because I have observed mosques set up only for African American Muslims and they keep apart. The answer to this question simply is yes. I encourage what is called the African American Muslim to participate with all Muslims, and just like I encourage other Muslims to participate with us. In fact, I was telling Brother Ibrahim earlier about the workshop here, the seminar, that it wasn't enough African American Muslims here, and I said I noticed these, I attend a lot of these, and I don't find immigrant Muslims coming to African American seminars and vice versa. And I believe that this is because of misunderstanding and fears. You know, that's why I was glad to come to this and hope to relax some of those things and let you know that I'm a Muslim. There are many African Americans that feel like myself also. So yes, I invite them and I invite you. And we should not treat the masjids like they're our houses. There's no African American mosque, and there's no Pakistani mosque, no Indian mosque. The mosque belongs to Allah. That's what I understood. That's what I was taught. That mosque was set up for Allah. This is his house. And that's how I try and respect it and treat it.
Brother from the floor.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, partially the question is to Brother Qasim and other to Jamal Badawi. A part of that is also already answered by Don Butts, who was prior to me speaking, asking the question relating to the distribution of the Quran directly to the non-Muslims. The reason, the question relating to Brother Qasim Ahmed is how it is perceived by a non-Muslim, a person who is not exposed to it, because unfortunately I don't have that experience to be on the other side to begin with. And as compared to any other introductory book in Islam, directly giving the Quran out. The reason for that is there is a verse in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun, that do not touch. This book should not be touched by somebody who is not a mutahhar. That's the reason. And again, when you I mean that when you are saying distributing the Quran, are you just talking about the translation of the Quran? Are you talking about the Arabic text as well? So I would like to have a comment on this, please.
Yes, I've had that question several times before because, you know, this is a policy of mine to mention this each time. But right now, you have a lot of Qurans that are printed in places by non-Muslims. They handle them all day long. Pick them up, they print them, they read them. You find them in libraries, you find them in bookstores, handled by non-Muslims. When we talk about the Quran, we can put together in a sheet of paper that will go in the Quran on how to handle it, how to wash your hand, etc., why, and etc. You know, the Quran is more than just the pages. You know, it says ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book in it. There is no doubt. It is a guide for those who are muttaqi. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was given the Quran, he was not given this like this. It was revealed piecemeal on his heart. And he himself, as Aisha radiallahu anha, when she was asked the question, what was his character? She said his character was the Quran. The real Quran is lived in the hearts of the people, you see. So I'm not stagnated by the paper that the Quran is printed on, as much as bringing the Quran to the heart of the people. So I see no problem with inviting people to this book, because you got a lot of decent people that respect knowledge, you see. So if we go and present the book and present instruction, you have just purchased the Holy Quran. This book is blah, 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 blah. There are steps to wash the hands, etc. It should not be read in the bathroom, etc., etc. You know, and it will be respected, you know. And they would say, boy, they went through all this to respect this book. That could be done. That's how I first got a Quran. When I bought a Quran in 1969 from Ellis Bookstore, which was a Christian bookstore on Cottage Grove in Chicago, you see. And in that book, it had instructions in it on how to treat it. And I was so elated. I said, man, oh man. Because I've been wanting, you know, I've been wanting the Quran. I got it, I read it. And do you know, I followed those instructions better then than I do now. Now, I'm not saying I disrespect the Quran, but there's, you know, sometimes I set it on the floor. You know, sometimes I have it in my pocket or something, you know. But then, they usually say keep the Quran on the highest shelf in the house. It was there. But now I understand it means the mind and the heart, you see.
How it's perceived as compared to any other elementary introductory book?
I would say that the Quran is the better book to me, you know, because it is that more direct, even though there are other books. Because some other books that are written, if you can get a good, simple book on it that presents the basis of the religion, fine. That can come later, you know. There are ways that this can be done. But if we can't get Qurans, let's present simple elementary books, you know, until we can get the Qurans in the hands of the people.
Before we go to the sister, just a minute, sister. Before we go to the sister, I'd like the brother Jamal Badawi to have a comment.
4 basic points. 1, there is no difference that the Quran should be treated with respect as the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that it's much preferable even to have wudu when you recite the Quran. There's no question about that. Secondly, to say that it is absolutely haram to touch the Quran on the basis of the ayah in the Quran is a matter where there are different interpretations of it, as reported, for example, in Fiqh Sunnah. And the ayah that says not to be touched except by mutahharun actually come in the context of the Quran in its accessibility to angels. إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا مطهر. Another linguistic point, it does not say لا يمسه إلا المتطهرون, but المطهرون. The Quran is very precise in its expression. And متطهرون, which the ayah doesn't say, means people who go and cleanse themselves. Al-mutahharun, those who are pure innately, which support the interpretation that the context of that ayah is about angels. Number 3, in Islamic fiqh also we find a great jurist like Imam Shafi'i says that any book containing more than half non-Quran, even if it contains the entire Quran, like books of tafsir or translations, even with the full text, is not exactly to be treated as the full Quran. But even if it's a full Quran, like a Christian Arab, the question here, how could people get the message of Islam without reading the word of Allah? Expository books and pamphlets about Islam are very useful, yet there is nothing really that rivals the desire of people to see what you claim to be the word of Allah. The Quran speaks directly to their hearts. We have seen an example right here. We have seen an example in Yusuf Islam and many others. So I think from the fiqh standpoint, even we are safe. Alhamdulillah.
I guess brother, well, it's brother Jamal Badawi, said what I wanted to say. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, sisters. Is anyone from sisters here? Because we left sisters for some time. There is. We'll go to the second question here from the questions here about wives of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Can Brother Jamal Badawi?
Well, I think we have to understand the context in which the propagandists raised this issue against Islam, thinking that this is the fatal shot they can discredit the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So before we answer that question, say, what are you trying to prove really? Basically, either that the person really was obsessed with women and the joys of this life, and as such you have a question mark in your mind as to whether he is prophet or not, or you're raising any question about his moral qualities. First of all, on the question of his qualification of being a prophet, it is interesting to notice that those who raise this objection are mostly missionaries who believe in religion. And they read in the Bible and they believe in David as a prophet with the multiplicity of wives, much more than Prophet Muhammad. The wives of Solomon, that the majority of Israelite prophets has more than one wife. Yet in their case, all right, they are prophets. In the other case, no, this disqualifies Prophet Muhammad as a prophet. Double standards. Number two, if the question is about the character and morality of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he stands far ahead of any Israelite prophet according to their narration, not according to our belief. Because in the Bible it's attributed to some prophets even committing sin with wives of somebody else. And the Prophet ﷺ, at most, he simply said that he is married legally so many wives. So in that sense, he's even above their own understanding according to their own scriptures. And thirdly, if we were to look at the character of the Prophet ﷺ, we have to look at it as a whole and then come to the question of marriage. One, up to the age of 25, he lived a completely chaste life, in spite of the promiscuity and availability of sin in Arabia. Even the two occasions when he even thought of going to a wedding, just a wedding, Allah caused him to sleep all night, to be woken in the morning by the sunrise. Secondly, his first marriage was at the age of 25 to Khadija, who was 15 years older, his senior. And she was widowed twice before. That means, again, it was not a marriage for passion itself. It was a marriage not also of convenience and wealth, as some might claim, because his love of her and her love of him was exemplary during his lifetime, and even after she died, still he kept mentioning her with great deal of affection. During his life with Khadija, he lived for 25 years, from the age of 25 to 50, with that single wife who was 15 years older than he was. The interesting question that sometimes we never ask ourselves, we, at the age of 40, that's fine. When Khadija became 60 and 64, why didn't he marry another wife? She would have not objected. It was customary in Arabia. Yet he lived with her alone. Is this a profile of man who's obsessed with women? Thirdly, the marital life of the Prophet ﷺ extends to 38 years. 31 years are forgotten when he had a monogamous marriage with Khadija, or for a certain period after the death of Khadija, and also with Sauda before his marriage to Aisha was consummated later in Medina, which adds up to 31 out of 38 years, a complete monogamous life. All the 31 years are forgotten, and the propagandists keep focusing on the 7th last year of the marriage of the Prophet, marital life of the Prophet ﷺ. The last 7 years in his declining years. And if you look at these, we can summarize them very briefly, and I'll give you another reference if you're interested, 2 references. But very briefly, you find that some of them were marriages to the daughters of his close companions and deputies, the daughter of Abu Bakr and Umar, which is normal in a society like that for people who have been so close to him. Secondly, he married daughters of people who were enemies of Islam to reconcile their hearts to Islam, and it did succeed, such as his marriage to Habiba, the daughter of Abu Sufyan, an arch enemy. His marriage to Maymuna from Najd, people who were very ardent enemies of Islam and participated in atrocities against Muslims. And when the marital relation took place between tribes, in a tribal society like that, it helped reduce their enmity and brought many of them to Islam, including eventually Abu Sufyan himself. Thirdly, he married people from the people of the book, especially some of the Jewish women who were captured in battle that were senior and respected among their people. That goodwill gesture, by freeing them and offering them marriage which they accepted, was one way to soften the hearts of people who were fighting Islam day and night, and actually many of their tribes came to Islam. Well, some people might say, are you saying that this is political marriage? If by political marriage you mean saving the blood of Muslims and non-Muslims alike, let it be, but not political like medieval Europe. If this humanitarian motive is behind it and you want to call it political marriage, in his position as representatives of Muslim and the head of Islamic State, having relationship with many tribes, even enemies, to reconcile them to Islam, let it be, alhamdulillah, that's the best politics. Fourthly, there have been one particular marriage to Zainab, the daughter of Jahsh, which was intended for a legal purpose. It wasn't his choice. And the Quran says, زَوَّجْنَاكَهَا. Allah says, we gave her to you in marriage. Even though the Prophet himself was reluctant and he was hiding in his heart, the reluctance and the possible question that people would raise about his marriage, pertaining to the difference between a foster son and adopted son. And the Quran specified that very clearly, that it was nothing but a legal reason, and it was not the choice of the Prophet. He was commanded and directed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to marry the divorcee of Zayd. Then finally comes the great majority of those marriages, some of which overlap for reasons with the others I mentioned. And these are marriages to people who, or widows who lost their husbands, and who otherwise would have been tortured by their families, especially those whose families remained as non-believers. And I'll just give one example for illustration to show the nobility of the motives of the Prophet ﷺ. Salama was a very noble woman. Her husband Abu Salama was a very great man, respected and good Muslim, devoted Muslim. After his martyrdom, she was very disappointed because she was old and she had 4 orphans. And she thought that nobody really can fill the gap left by her respected husband Abu Salama. Abu Bakr went to her to offer her marriage. She refused. And the reason was quite obvious, that she's old, she had 4 orphan kids, and she knew that this is marriage of sympathy. She was very dignified, she refused. Umar went, she refused. Then Prophet Muhammad ﷺ learned of her plots and her great sacrifice and nobility. In recognition to her and the memory of her husband, and in trying to look after her and her orphans, he offered marriage to her. She refused. He said, why is that? She said, 1, I am old. 2, I have 4 orphans to look after. 3, I am a jealous woman. The Prophet ﷺ, even though she probably was close to his age, but he recognized the psychology of women, the complementaries they need. She probably was about the same age. He said, as far as age, I am older than you. As far as the 4 orphans, I take them in my house. I'll be responsible for them like my own children. As far as your jealousy, I'll pray that Allah may remove this jealousy from your heart. And Allah did. And he married her. As one scholar once put it, that those who tried to attack the Prophet ﷺ from the standpoint of his marriage did a service to Islam, because it caused scholars to study the real marriages in detail of the Prophet ﷺ, only to discover his nobility, that it was marriage for compassion, not for passion. One booklet was published on that subject by the Qasim publications, called the Prophet Muhammad Ideal Husband, and more details even are covered in album 11, the last album available of the Islamic teaching series, where there were several half-hour programs dealing in detail with the marriage of the Prophet, his marriage to Zainab, his marriage to Aisha. By the way, there's a big mistake to say that he married Aisha at the age of 9, and evidence was given from Ibn Hisham that she probably was a teenager in all likelihood. But again, if the question arises, I'll be glad to address that. But these are 2 references that you could also go for further details.
Allahu Akbar. We'll go to the floor, one from the floor here.
Assalamu alaikum. I would like Imam Qasim Ahmed to comment, and I'm not trying to commercialize, but to comment on, which I think is a very important point for Dawa, a question in which he was talking to me about in private. And he was telling me that in order for Dawa, and in relationship to the American psychology and the difficulties of the American language, learning another language, that he has developed a technique in revolutionizing the teaching of Arabic until even a retarded person could learn Arabic with his new book that is coming out, and I'm so excited. I want to be a distributor for him in this area, and this would help us in a Dawa too. So I would like for Imam Qasim to comment on that, because I think this would be a very important tool for the Americans to truly learn the Quran, because it is an Arabic Quran, and the Americans have an extreme difficulty with learning another language, especially when it's taught to them from the point of view of immigrant, and especially some African Americans. And Imam Qasim, he has, over the years, I've noticed, he's been very effective in teaching the Arabic and eliminating these psychological barriers. So I would like for him to comment on that for us.
First of all, let me clear something out. The retardation I meant is the impediment of an inability to for acquisition of it, almost like Musa and his impediment of speech. However, yes, Allah has blessed us. I'm a student. I've been a student of Arabic language for a number of years, and one of the biggest things that I saw in trying to relate and teach Arabic, especially in the African American community, was the attitude of the approach, that it was a language that was very, very hard and very, very difficult. Allah has blessed us to understand, as He says in the Quran, وَلَّقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ, that we have made the Quran easy for you to learn and understand. If there anyone who will give admonition, remind. So Allah has blessed us with some techniques for beginning Arabic basis to over the years. I've been teaching Arabic in a small way for the last 10 or 15 years, and Allah has blessed us to through that to come up with a methodology that we have found very, very effective. It's been tested. For instance, to give you an example, the Arabic alphabet, when I first started taking Arabic, the person I was learning from at that time, it took him about 90 days to teach the Arabic alphabet, 60 to 90 days. Allah has blessed us now that we can teach the Arabic alphabet in an hour, 1 hour, and you will know it. I guarantee it, or I'll give you your money back. So, we inshallah, that book will be coming out soon. And as I was telling the brother, I was doing some sales pitching, we talk a lot too, but I was telling him that it's going to revolutionize the teaching of Arabic, like Muhammad Ali did boxing, that everybody's copied him.
We'll go to the sisters here to have a comment about the Simpson.
Being a Muslim woman, I have accepted hijab. Non-Muslims always concentrate on this point of women being covered and being treated less fairly than men. Are we obligated to explain this point, since it's taken out of context of Islam, without real interest in finding out of the greater religion? Or shall we just stay quiet and say, well, this is what I've accepted and this is the way I feel? Do we have an obligation to explain it, since it is one point of Islam, it is not the greater Islam?
That's a very important question, sister here. Brother Jamal Badawi, right here.
You can do both at the same time. I would answer it this way. I said, first of all, why do I observe hijab? Because I believe in Allah and I believe in Islam, and there is a book we have as Muslims called the Quran, which is the word of Allah as explained by His Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who received the revelation, and that required me to do that. And if it is only out of the expression of submission and love and trust in Allah, if that is the only reason, I'm willing to do it. And then I invite her, but I invite you, however, to look at that book to see also what other thing does it teach. So that could be an entrance to let her show some interest in studying about Islam. I said, once you understand Islam, you will understand that also. If you have time also, you can give a few explanations, and there are lots of possible explanations also that about hijab, because they have a particular image of hijab. It's associated with backwardness, lack of education, oppression, and all of this. And this also could be clarified. But you could do both at the same time. But I think we should not be apologetic when we answer a question like that. Why do you wear hijab? Why you don't drink? Why you don't eat pork? It's clean now. It's tested. It's so and so. And if you start answering first from yes, but science say this and that, this has its role. But you have to begin first by declaring yourself, I am a Muslim. I believe in Allah. He is the creator of all. His wisdom supersedes ours. If he says that, there must be something good in it. I'll do it. And then I'll find reasons. I'm not dogmatic. But these reasons are not a precondition for me to follow him.
Allahu Akbar. Thank you. There is a question to Brother Qasim. Ahmed, more than one question actually here. How can we invite our Muslim children to Islam who have drifted away towards American culture? Brother Qasim.
Well, I want to say this. First of all, we have to look at what caused the drifting, as they say. A lot of Muslim homes have to carry the religion in the home, first of all. If you're a Muslim in the home, first, watching your prayers, well, I know in my own home, sometimes the TV is on, and the adhan is called, and nobody responds. So a couple of times I threatened my children, I said, I'm going to get an axe and bust the TV. You know, why don't you just be idle threats? But we have to invite them by our example and by teaching them. But also, you have to remember, our children are under a lot of pressure today. A lot of pressure. More than just peer pressure, but they're under the pressure of shaitan to take away the future of Muslims in the world. If shaitan get our babies, our children, they've got our future. So we have to be competitive enough to provide things for them to subvert or to change what is attracting them. If sports are attracting them, or if interactions are attracting them with different things, then we have to come up and think of activities that will require their energies. So we have to establish for them a respect for the Quran by our own example. I would love to see in America, especially in America, Quran schools where the children can go and learn how to recite the Quran as well as apply the Quran, at least in each region. You know, we need to have competition of even basketball or soccer, you know, with other Muslim communities. We can do this right here in the state of Texas or in any other state. We can interchange like that. We need to have a competition that will make them proud to be Muslim. And we have to sit and talk with our youth, our children, not just occasionally, but as often as possible in terms of this religion of Al-Islam. So those are just some of the things that I see immediately. I was talking with some of the young sisters this morning, the youth, in terms of peer pressure. The peer pressure that the children have today is similar to the peer pressure that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had 1400 years ago. Because he was in an environment where people were doing all types of things, and he did not succumb to that peer pressure. He never worshipped idols. He never drank liquors. You never saw him around the Kaaba reciting poetry and trying to improve himself. In fact, he was so honorable that his nickname was El Amin. You know, not Cool Jake, Wild Dog, Madhouse. You know, some of the names that these people take on. He had an honorable name that described his character, even under very, very intense pressure. He was called mad. He was called insane. Guts were thrown on him. Things were thrown in his path. He was persecuted. We all know his history. But he did not succumb to pressure. And that's the same thing with us. We are being persecuted in many ways. Through TV, radio. We have to understand what Nintendo is, We have to understand what Dungeons and Dragons is. As I was speaking earlier to Brother Shakur, Saint Boomer, pardon me, that he said, yeah, my son, he was saying this rap. You know, I was telling him about this rap, the rap music. You know, we have to mean what is this rap music? You know, you out there. You know, I like my radio and I play it loud. I'm the man with the box that can rock the crowd. You know, you got to know what's going on out here, so that you can address these things in the home. Here, your son come in the house. Not, you know, when I was coming up, we had little transistor radios like this. Now they carry hi-fi, boom, blowing their brains out. So I'm saying we have to know what is attracting them and bringing them away from the path of Islam and the way of Islam. We just can't sit down and say, well, I'm going to pray for them. No, we got to pray and work. As the Bible says, watch as well as pray. We got to do both. We got to pray and work and fight shaitan with an intensity, with the object of killing the influences that is trying to take away our future. So yes, we have a big job, and that's why we need less argument among ourselves, more unity, and let's look at how collectively we can pull together our situation as Muslims from around the world.
Actually, I want to request the chairman to add a few minutes to as this committee can. I just would request just only one comment from sister here, because sister.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My question is for Dr. Jamal Badawi. Actually, for every sin been committed, there is a punishment. Like for the lying, there is punishment. Like for committing adultery or fornication, there is punishment. Only the verse of the hijab, there is no punishment in the dunya. So some sisters, they said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself didn't mention the punishment in the dunya, how can you judge us by the not forcing the hijab? And they take the verses of the hijab as a bargain. And sometimes, and they usually say, you cannot equal the hijab and the prayer. As long as there is a prayer, the prayer is the things that differentiate between the Muslim and the non-Muslim. And they take these verses as really a bargain. They take what they like and they leave what they don't like. How can you answer them?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I think first of all, there is no question that there are, yes, priorities in Islam. For example, making salah is more, making the fard salah is more important than making sunnah, which is optional. Yes, there are, and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having firm belief even precedes salah. A person believes first and then he begins to implement that by way of salah. But on the other hand, I think it trivializes the matter to say that there is no specific punishment in this life. For this life is nothing. Actually, I would get much more scared of punishment in the hereafter. Because punishment in this life, it's just a few minutes and it goes. But eternal punishment is something really that one has to be very careful about. And the Prophet ﷺ in one hadith, when he speaks about women, kasiyat and ariyat, who are clothed but not properly covered, that means they show their adornment. He says that they will not enter paradise and they would not even have a smell of it, a fragrance of it. Not enter paradise and not have even a fragrance of it. So that, I think it would be a trivialization of the matter of hijab to say that since it does not have a particular criminal punishment like other graver punishments in the Quran, that it is an easy matter or something that we should be passing on lightly. On the question of bargaining, if we really have the commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would not bargain. We will just try to do as best as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us. And even if we fail to implement everything, we should not make a futile argument to justify our wrongdoing. We should at least admit that this is the right thing, that I am at error, and I pray that Allah will help me to overcome it. But in the meantime, my word also to both brothers and sisters, that the matter of hijab, as you know, has a great deal of sensitivity in our times because of the kind of indoctrination that many people has gone through, including even some Muslim women, because most of us came from countries that had some elements of westernization. We are living also in a Western society. So there is some influence in our thinking on that. And as such, giving that sensitivity, we have to apply utmost wisdom and sensitivity. And instead of the attitude of just condemning others for not doing the right thing, we should make it clear that both brothers and sisters are doing things that are wrong. It's not only the sisters. And then we should encourage them to learn what is right and to do it, but in a gentle and non-vindictive type of way. And as I indicated in more than one occasion during my travels, that within North America and overseas, many countries I visited, alhamdulillah, when you use that gentle approach and make it a motivation to come from within themselves rather than something being preached to them to death or imposed on, they feel it's imposed on them, when it comes really from their own heart, from their love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, commitment to Him, and stopping this attitude of shopping for fatwas. If that's the attitude, alhamdulillah, many times you come back to the same city and you find many of those who used to argue about hijab are in full hijab. So I think if we follow that hikmah, inshallah, many of our sisters will be coming to the right way, inshallah.
Brother, just a small comment, real fast, really. It'll take a few seconds. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, it's just a comment. Actually, we talk about a support group for new Muslims. I just want to say that for the Muslim in Austin, that I've been trying to start a group like that with the Emir, actually, and it haven't been done so far. So I hope the Emir of Austin is here, listen. So maybe, inshallah, we go back and start a group like that in Austin. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, also there is in Houston, there is already a group, but the meeting in the university campus, inshallah, in that regard. So, by this, actually, we exceeded the time.
He be waiting for too long. Give him 1 more minute.
Who is this? I didn't see him. Okay. Okay, by this I'm apologize that I didn't see you. There is inshallah some questions. We apologize for those who didn't answer their questions. It will be about most of it is gonna related to the social session, inshallah. So there will be another opportunity because we have exceeded the time almost 20 minutes here, and we can conclude at this time. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Assalamu alaikum. Please stay in place until I finish, please. Inshallah, the next program we will have the